Hey guys, DJ Jackson, 8-time world champion, 2-time ADCC vet, and today I want to talk to you about tips to progressing our jiu-jitsu faster. And one of the main things that's going to help us progress faster is being consistent, or as consistent as we can be in jiu-jitsu. There's always a saying that we have in jiu-jitsu, and that saying is the mats don't lie. No matter what you pretend to be or what level you pretend to tell your friends, the mats will never lie. You show up to the gym, if you're a black belt, people are going to know you're a black belt because of the time you put it on the mats. If you're a white belt, people are going to know you're a white belt by the time you put it on the mats. So if you want to improve jiu-jitsu, it's very important that we show up each and every day that we can, be as consistent as possible, and show up ready and willing to learn. Leave all the drama, all the problems, leave all that shit at the door, and show up ready to work, because there is no substitute for hard work in jiu-jitsu. It's one of the most beautiful martial arts because a lot of other sports like basketball, football, like God gives people gifts, like LeBron James, he's 6'8", and yes, he works incredibly hard to do the things that he's able to do, but also he has a lot of God-given gifts. Jiu-jitsu is a special sport, and I'll also add wrestling into that, where it doesn't really matter what gifts someone is given. If that person doesn't work hard, you're not going to see the results that that person wants. So consistency is key, and there is no substitution for hard work. So we have to show up, ready to learn, willing to get beat up if that's what it takes, but just show up and leave all those problems at the door and pay attention and listen to your instructors. Pay attention and ask questions. There's nothing more frustrating than, not frustrating as an instructor, but more so when I used to train back home with Master Lloyd Urban, where we'd be in class, he'd show a technique, I'd already be a black belt, we'd have a bunch of blue belts, white belts, purple belts on the mat, and then at the end of him teaching his technique, he'd go, does anyone have any questions? And then I'm looking around as a black belt completely and utterly lost on everything he just taught, but then everyone else has no questions. And I know they're full of shit. Of course they have questions, but everyone is afraid to ask questions because they're afraid to look stupid. That's not a thing. There's no such thing as a stupid question. Even if you ask a question and everyone laughs at you, as long as you get the information that you needed from that question wasn't stupid. I remember the Mendez brothers taught a seminar at our academy when I was a blue belt, and I had a problem sparring with one of my training partners, Lenny Maggio, where every time I passed his guard, he just continuously hold the grip on my sleeve. And then with that grip on my sleeve, he'd be able to get his guard back 100% of the time. I was a blue belt, he was a purple belt, and he tortured me with this. Every time I passed, he'd hold my sleeve, I couldn't get past his guard. Pass, he'd hold my sleeve, I couldn't get past his guard. I asked the Mendez brothers how they would deal with this particular situation, and they looked at each other, they laughed, and then they said, pick his legs up. Everyone in the gym laughed, everyone thought it was hilarious, which it kind of was the way they answered the question, but I was so much better by asking that question and dealing with my teammates laughing at me, because yeah, it was funny. No one did it maliciously, no one did it to hurt my feelings. It was just a funny reaction by them. It was a funny way for them to teach that, but me and everyone else who had that particular problem never had to deal with that problem again. So again, if you have a question, I guarantee you're not the only person with that question. So it's your job, your duty to step up and ask questions. Don't be afraid. So make sure you pay attention, because the only thing that does get annoying as an instructor is if I'm teaching a lesson and then one of the people while I'm teaching the lesson, while I'm teaching the technique, is kind of trailing off, not paying any attention. And we as instructors, we see this. Like, it's very obvious when someone's not paying attention. And then I'll go, all right, guys, anybody have any questions? And then someone will raise a hand. Can you show it one more time? No, I can't show it one more time. You didn't pay any attention to the first 4 times I showed it. No, I'm not going to show it again. So make sure you show up to class, you pay attention to the techniques. Don't let yourself trail off. Leave those. When we come into jiu-jitsu, our goal is to improve our jiu-jitsu. So we need to be coming into jiu-jitsu willing to learn and ready to do what it takes to learn. And paying attention is a big part of what it takes to learn. And so pay attention and know if you have absolutely any questions, instructors want to help. We want nothing more than our students to be as good as they possibly can get. So if you have a question in jiu-jitsu, even if a person isn't paying any attention, and I see this, I'll just show the technique again to them on the side. But you have to make sure that you're not one of those guys that aren't paying attention, and now you're forcing the entire class to go over something completely another time because you decided to trail off. So show up, be consistent, pay attention in class, and ask questions. Also, same thing along the lines with asking questions, take notes. Have a notebook. I've never been in a gym where an instructor's teaching, someone goes and grabs their notebook to take notes, and the instructor goes like, hey, don't take notes. What are you doing? Every instructor usually tells their students to take notes. I never really took notes because I don't learn from taking notes. There's different types of learners. Some people are visual learners. Some people learn from listening to the techniques, and some people learn from watching the techniques. Some people are very visual. I'm a visual learner. I learned from watching the techniques. So something that I would do was just record myself doing the techniques. If you need to give your camera to a friend after practice and have him record you doing the techniques that you guys worked on, so you can always go back and watch yourself do these techniques, and that's what you need to do. Whatever your best way to learn this information and retain this information is going to be what you're going to have to do to improve in jiu-jitsu. Whether it's you taking notes, or you recording yourself doing a technique, or you talking into a recorder at the end of practice, just talking yourself through it. So next time you're headed to the gym, you can just listen to yourself talk about the technique over and over and over again. So whatever it is, whatever your best way to learn is what we're going to have to do. So it's important to take notes, pay attention, and ask questions. I can't stress that enough. Ask questions, because a lot of us, when we're training, we get into this kind of mode where, oh, I don't want to bother my instructor. That's not a thing. Your instructor wants to be bothered. We show up to be bothered by our students. We want you guys to ask us questions. We want you guys to improve jiu-jitsu. And I will hold the one caveat when I say there are no such thing as dumb questions. What if questions are kind of silly. Not what if this person does that, or what if this person does this, because that's not what I mean. I mean, when people ask, what if he's strong? Or what if he's fast? Those type of questions aren't productive and aren't going to help us improve. So make sure your questions are productive and they have something to do with the techniques that we're going over. Don't go off in the left field and ask a question about a completely different technique. There's a time and a place for that. But right now during class, usually the questions have to be around or stay within the same lane of what we're working on. And when we break up and we start drilling after the techniques are taught, don't always pick your best friend to drill with. Because picking your best friend is usually going to end up with you guys talking, not really paying attention. Maybe you get 2 reps in while the other group on the other side of the mat got 30 in because you guys are talking about the football game or the soccer game or something like that. Switch it up. If you're a lower belt, if you're a white belt, try to train with a blue belt or a purple belt. And if you're a blue belt or a purple belt, don't always train with the highest level person that you can drill with. Everyone in jiu-jitsu got good at jiu-jitsu because someone helped us get better at jiu-jitsu. So if you're a purple belt and you don't have especially if you don't have a competition coming up, but even if there is a competition coming up, if there's a white belt in your class about to compete in this competition, grab him and drill with that person. Help bring him up the same way people help bring you up. And white belts, don't be discouraged. Ask a higher belt to drill with. The absolute worst thing they're going to say is no, because I already have a partner, and then you go and ask someone else. So do your best to try to drill with higher training partners, because 2 brand new white belts drilling with each other isn't really always going to be a recipe for success, because both of you guys are kind of going to be completely lost. So try to mix it up, drill with higher belts, higher belt ranks than you. And for the higher ranks, try to pick up other people under you. Try to literally grab them like, hey, no, don't drill with that white belt today. You're drilling with me. And the person that you were going to drill with, make them drill with the other guy. And then that way, the entire school will improve faster. The morale of the white belts will be much higher because they'll be much more excited. They'll leave class understanding jiu-jitsu a lot more, because instead of them drilling with a white belt being completely lost, being afraid to ask questions, they'll be with a higher belt who can answer questions for them. Call the instructor over if they see that person doing something wrong. Have the instructor explain it to them. Or in some cases, if you're a high enough rank, you can explain it to them. But also, Do not let white belts coach you. If you're a white belt and a white belt starts to coach you, just politely ask him to be quiet and call the instructor over. Again, we as instructors are there to help our students. Usually there's always a rule that white belts cannot teach other white belts, because there's nothing more frustrating than teaching a technique. I'll teach a knee cut, for example. And then I'll come over and then I'll see a white belt teaching another white belt an Ezekiel choke. And I'm like, we're supposed to be doing knee cuts, guys. Like, there's a time, we're going to get to the Ezekiel choke later, maybe not today, but why are you wasting reps on that when I want you guys working on this particular technique? Every instructor has a plan for his class, so don't be that white belt just because you trained a little bit longer than another white belt who thinks you're ready to start teaching the other white belts in the class. Like, you won't be ready for that, not even when you're blue belt. You'll know when, because your coach when you do it, he'll stop yelling at you. And that's kind of what it is. If you're a white belt teaching other belts, probably going to get yelled at, because that's not what you're supposed to be doing. You're going to hurt yourself, you're going to hurt your teammates, and you're not trying to hurt your teammates, which is the worst part about it. You're trying your best to help them, but you're actually being very detrimental to their success in the long run. So make sure, never be afraid to ask questions. And if a white belt starts trying to coach you, stop it right away, shut it down, and ask your coach. Your coach is there to help you. If I'm your coach, I am there to help my students. I want nothing more than for you to ask me questions. If you don't understand the technique, I'll sit there with you until you understand it. Because other instructors did that exact same thing for me. I've asked any retarded, dumb question you can possibly think of. I promise you, I've asked it to my instructor, Master Lloyd. I've asked it to instructors teaching seminars. I've had the entire class laugh at me. But as long as I'm improving, there's nothing wrong with that. Yes, no one wants to be laughed at, but also we don't want to get tapped out in competition. So if the choice is to get laughed at and improve in our jiu-jitsu, or to not get laughed at and get tapped out in the competition because we don't fully understand the technique, I would choose to get laughed at 100% of the time. So make sure, ask questions and do your best to learn, focus, and pay attention while your instructor is teaching. Another thing we can do to help progress is record our rolling sessions. A lot of times when we train, when we're sparring with our partners, we forget absolutely everything that happened in the round. Maybe we were just surviving. Maybe we just aren't really good at retaining that information. But put your phone up on the side. You can use a stand. I'm using a stand to record this video right now. Use a stand, set it up, record yourself. People do get a little bit weird if you're recording other people, and that's not what I'm saying to do. I'm not telling you to record other people in your class unless they give you their permission to record them. But if you're trying to record your roll, so just let your partner know, like, hey, do you mind if I record this roll? Like, I'm just trying to get better. He's probably going to say, yeah, of course, man, but can you send it to me too so I can also improve? And then both of you will have a bunch of information that you can go back, look at, see the mistakes you made, see what you did well, and see what you need to work on. And you'll be able to raise your level much faster. So record your rolls while you're training, and also record your competition or competition sparring, whether it's competition sparring or the actual competitions we go to. If we're going to competitions, make sure you take your video camera, your camera stand, or a lot of times the competitions, you can just give your phone to a teammate, or again, set your phone up right on the side of the mat and record your competition that way. But make sure that we retain that information so that we can continuously improve. Then also, a big thing is stay after class. When class is over, don't just run out of the gym when class is over and expect to be able to retain all the information that we went over that day. Stay after class, ask questions, immerse yourself into jiu-jitsu. Everyone's there to help each other out. Sit around, ask your teammates, hey, was that choke that choke I put you in, was that a neck crank or was that actually a choke? Like, what did you feel? And then you'll be able to get information back. If you're just neck cranking your partners, they'll let you know. If you're choking them and you just let the choke go too fast, they'll also let you know. So make sure, don't run away after class right away. Unless you have something to do, try to stick around. Ask questions, continuously trying to improve. It's very important that we do our best to improve in all aspects of jiu-jitsu. And showing up on time, willing to work, ready to learn is a very important part of progressing in jiu-jitsu. But also after class, not taking off right away is going to be a very important part of us progressing our jiu-jitsu. So consistency is key. Pay attention in class, ask questions, take notes. If you're not a person who can learn from taking notes, record yourself teaching techniques. Try your best to drill with higher belts, or the bare minimum, drill with someone that you're not going to talk to. Drill with someone that you're actually going to be able to get reps in and work on perfecting these techniques. Don't let white belts coach. If you're a blue or purple belt, because all the time the instructor is not going to see everything in class. If you're a purple belt and you see a white belt coaching another white belt, shut it down for your instructor. Just politely tell them, hey guys, white belts shouldn't coach white belts. If you have a question, ask the professor. Professor will be able to come over, he'll be able to help, or at the bare minimum, he'll find someone, a higher belt in the class to help him. But usually the professor will come over. If I'm at the gym and it's my gym, me or my assistant coach, Alex, will always be there to help the students out as much as we can. Record your rows, record your sparring, record your competition matches, and don't just record them and let those recordings sit and go forever without being watched. Ask your instructor, be like, hey man, excuse me coach, do you have 10 minutes and sit down with me and go over these matches so that we can go over what I'm doing wrong? He's either gonna say yes or no. Usually if he says no, he'll give you another time when he can't do that. And then stay after class and do your best to improve on the things you did in that class. There's nothing wrong with making mistakes when we're competing in jiu-jitsu, when we're training in jiu-jitsu, as long as we fix the mistakes and focus on not making the same mistake again. And that's one of the best ways to get better at jiu-jitsu. Make a mistake, fix the mistake, don't make the same mistake again. But make sure you follow me on Instagram, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and just stay tuned because more videos will be coming very soon.